All right, so I think we're live. Welcome to the briefings. This is the Angeles Puerto Rico Forum webinar series leading to our event in Puerto Rico Q4 of this year. I'm Angel Leon, the host of this series, founder of Coqui Ventures. And today the topic is simple and kind of loaded at the same time. What does it actually mean to build a venture scale company from Puerto Rico, right? Or connected to Puerto Rico. And for that, I've got three amazing founders here in front of me today that are living this specific topic that we're going to be talking about. And, we're going to talk about the build, the talent, the capital, right, and the decisions of why Puerto Rico, why you guys chose the island to build. But let's get started with just a round of introductions, quick, 20, 30 seconds, your name, what your company does, and where are you in your journey. And Megan, if you want to get started.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me on here. Oh, looks like my video froze. 1 second. There we go. Thank you so much for having me on here. Lovely to see you all again. I'm Megan Wood, co-founder and CEO of Raya Power. We are on a mission to make getting residential solar and storage as simple as buying a table at IKEA. So we've designed a new all-in-one permissionless solar and battery appliance that you can basically plop in your backyard or on a flat roof and connect to your core appliances to get resilience as well as bill savings on a daily basis. And we're starting in Puerto Rico as well as California. And so we have pilots going here already and really excited to scale our impact.
Very cool, Megan. Thank you. Charles?
Yeah, Charles Mestre Rodriguez, founder and CEO of Supply Veins. Supply Veins is a AI native operating system that turns supplier emails into reliable execution for procurement. So, in simple terms, we're just a technology that connects to your email and can track, automate, execute your entire supply chain for you. Um, yeah, so building out of Miami and also born and raised in Puerto Rico, and then raising our pre-seed round right now. Um, so, yeah.
Very cool, Charles. Jonathan?
Hey everyone, nice to see everyone again. My name is Jonathan Soto Nieves. I am the founder and CEO of iTerra Solutions. iTerra Solution is building a phantom pulse, which is a sensor that detects and classifies group 1 to 3 UAS. As you see, right, the war in Ukraine has demonstrated that the war has changed into drone attacks. So iTerra is right now building the sensor to protect those war fighters, oil facilities, and critical infrastructure by detecting and classifying those small drones that like large radars cannot detect. We are building out of Puerto Rico. Right now, we're pushing already to TL3, so we already tested in the field. And as Charles, we are currently raising our pre-seed round, closing in July 31st.
Very cool, Jonathan. So since you went last, I'll pick you first. But when you tell people, right, that you're building through Puerto Rico or from Puerto Rico, what's the reaction that you get, right? And what do they get most wrong about what actually means to build from PR?
So I would say that I get like mixed responses back. If we look at the in the investor side, right, they still understanding and knowledge on the data, like the typical organization, right? They see Puerto Rico and they understand how that much like the part of like the legalities and the laws behind. But right, if you look at Puerto Rico, it's almost a copycat of the Delaware law, which protect investors, which I think that's one of the things that's still not there, right? Puerto Rico being part of the United States gave us a lot of advantages. What and the good side, right? I would say like Puerto Rico have like I said, we have the talent. Megan, I have seen it, right, coming to Puerto Rico, Charles as well, right? Have the talent, the engineering, and the grit. We are uniquely positioned as both like bilingual, um, and yeah. So Puerto Rico have all the attributes that are required to grow, right? Starting from the workspace, the structures, So I will say that those are like the main things that they get wrong. And also, right, it's a little bit challenging in some aspects, right? There is not like a well-built investor network around, right? Like you get typically in like Silicon Valley or like coffees in Arlington, Virginia, which are we also base. But so yes, but other than that, it's beautiful to be getting built back home and raising a defense company out of Puerto Rico.
Definitely, definitely. And Charles, Megan, have you guys seen any, anything different than that? Different experiences from your side?
I mean, I would say very, very similar experience on that end. I think Puerto Rico's slept on in a lot of ways. I think mainly from like a point of like information asymmetry where like not knowing. But Puerto Rico has a huge manufacturing industry. I mean, pharmaceutical, now defense, dual use is expanding, energy. It's got amazing talent coming out of there as well. But I agree with like Jonathan in terms of like the kind of investor network. I think it's very early on, and they're a little bit more, I would say, traditional investors versus kind of your typical like venture high risk, really high reward type investing.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say for our business, particularly that's interesting in Puerto Rico, is being an awesome place to test out sort of new energy innovation. So it's a place where obviously there's a lot of outages, and so there's a lot of need, which means there's a lot of consumers trying out different products, building different systems, and electricity prices are pretty high. So it means that alternatives are really high in demand, whereas other places that have outages have much lower electricity prices. So it's hard to give yourself that room to innovate with stuff that maybe is more expensive early on, but over time can come down in price. And Puerto Rico is a place where you can innovate with that, and there's a lot of willingness to try new things. So that's a really exciting place for us to be. And I think one thing that's really nice, as Jonathan mentioned, is the bilingual side of it, but also the culture of it, that you're still part of the US. So scaling to mainland US, it's, you're following all the same regulations as the US and building a product, but also what it gives you is culturally available to expand south as well. And so we get a lot of interest from Latin America and the rest of the Caribbean. And so we kind of have this nice coverage of both regions that Puerto Rico gives you a really great starting place to be able to pivot into both and really attract both customer bases.
So yeah, and I guess that was sort of my next question there, and I want to maybe dig a little bit deeper into that, right? So you guys all went through some sort of program in PR at some point. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all met at Parallel 18. I went through the pre-18 program with Jonathan, and then in Parallel 18 program with Charles as well. So that program was awesome to give us a great starting point on the island.
Okay, and and even though you guys all started there, right? All three of you have made different decisions, right? Charles, you're in Miami. Jonathan, you're building from Puerto Rico, right? And I know, I mean, first of all, thank you for your service again. And Megan, you are
Yours
building in
too.
Puerto Rico. Yeah, of course. But you also have California as, as a target, right? So there's different decisions being made, and there gotta be for a reason, right? Why, in your case, Megan, for example, you explain a little bit of why Puerto Rico, right? Why Puerto Rico and why next California, right? And what does it look like? What does it look like, the picture to you, for to say, okay, from California, we're gonna keep moving to here and here. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so Puerto Rico early on, as I mentioned, gives us just an excellent place to test out and improve the product, and a great opportunity for impact as well to help a lot of people along the way. How we then scale that to the rest of the US, why California is exciting, and also places like Hawaii, is other places that have high electricity bills are starting to face more and more outages. We see a lot of places starting to look more like Puerto Rico in the future, given the rise in data center demand as well as natural disasters. So I spoke to someone in Colorado the other week who had their power out for 7 days. There's many areas in California where they have to turn the grid off if there's a forest fire coming through. Hawaii's bills are like twice the price of Puerto Rico. So it's not a unique problem to Puerto Rico, but it's a unique place where we have an opportunity to build right now. And then proving out that product and scaling it is kind of what gets us to more people who are facing similar problems in different regions. So California makes a lot of sense from electricity prices, outages continuing to grow, and also the Central Valley being very hot. So that air conditioning load being a main thing you're driving all the time. And so what's great about kind of keeping the dual purpose for us, and that we have pilots both in California and Puerto Rico, is that we continue to advance both of those markets and do a lot of our early testing and getting those products scaled in Puerto Rico. We can leverage manufacturing, as Charles mentioned, lower labor rates, a lot of opportunity there to export in a cheaper way the product to then get to the rest of the US. So we're really benefiting from a lot of the incentives that there are to build in Puerto Rico. Oh, you're on mute, Angel.
And muted. Jonathan, thank you, Megan. From your side, Jonathan, why staying in Puerto Rico, right? Dig a little bit deeper into the reasons there.
So I will say that there are multiple reasons, like one, intrinsic motivations, right? And intrinsic motivations, first and foremost, right? I'm Puerto Rican born and raised. I have traveled, been in many Fortune 500 companies at the C-suite level, and I've seen like, oh, there is always a Puerto Rican outside that is leading some type of program. And like I know, like after I decided to build iTerra, right? I wanted to build something that make in Puerto Rico, right? Because I know we had the talent. So one of the main reasons as well is, like I mentioned, right? Other than the incentives, right? That Act 60 that we have, that we are taking advantage of, right? Like, so 4% corporate taxes, 0% capital gains. Every contract that we get, the government gave us 50 cents the dollar back, so allow us to increase our production rate and lower the cost. And Charles mentioned, because we are building a deep tech, right, with hardware and software. Like one of the things that Charles mentioned, Puerto Rico has been proven to have a advanced manufacturing culture for like 40 years, since the 60s, be the pharmaceuticals. I think we produce like 50, 60% of the pharma across the United States. So it was a mix of combinations, wanted to grow and build and extend the range of the United States Department, right, as the Caribbean, as you've seen in a strategic position for the Department of Defense and what is happening across the world. So building a sensor that is a data layer that it can protect and detect the first onion layer of defense of the United States. That was one of the things that we were looking to achieve and build like the arsenal of the Caribbean. But also to power that out, right? We have the engineering team, we have the universities, and the U.S. made allow us, right, to penetrate the Department of Defense U.S. market. And like I mentioned, at a lower cost due to the incentive. And also, thirdly, is like the penetration, like Megan mentioned, right? We are close to the Latin America market. It is on the top market on critical infrastructure and defense and the protection. So allow us to be in Puerto Rico, allow us to penetrate Latin America market and South America, which right now one of the main focus of the Southern Command of the United States. That is why we believe and firmly like to like raise and build out of Puerto Rico. It is in a strategic position for us.
Very cool, Jonathan. Thank you. And Charles, why Miami?
Yeah, so I would say, we chose to build between, the Miami and Puerto Rico area just because, it's the same thing, right? As everybody has kind of discussed, right? Our communication technology is like I said, communication based. So English and Spanish are the two most common languages that we're operating in right now, and both Puerto Rico and Miami great space for that. In terms of like venture, we think like Miami is a little bit more advanced on the early stage, so like pre-seed to Series A. And that's why we're kind of building out of here. But at the same time, our technology, supply chain, and procurement, we like to operate in where the ports are at. So Miami has a huge international port, international airport, and Puerto Rico also has some interesting problem sets that happen with like supply chain and procurement coming from an island. So I think both of those kind of help us, create our our foundation with early customers and then scale from there.
Very cool. So there must be, as you guys build, right, again, connected to the island, there must be some sort of operational, right, reality building in the island, right, that mainline founders may not necessarily experience or have to deal with. Do you guys have any examples of that?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Like in terms of operations, right, being connected or being building to from the island, that you guys must face certain challenges that mainland founders may not necessarily face, right? And do you guys have any examples of that?
I will say, like, in the building, I don't see any, as of right now, at least us, iTerra, we have not faced any challenges that the mainland doesn't, it's not facing, right? Like, I would say, like, what we are, like, one of the main challenges of the United States, right? Mainland, at least in the area, is supply chain. Puerto Rico, right? We own most of the supply chain, meaning that we have raw minerals and materials. It is the largest non-contentious free trade zones across the United States. So we have a lot of entries in our raw materials. Also, being a deep tech, right? We manufacture, so we manufacture in Puerto Rico. So we cut a lot of supply chains needs that the United States still, like mainland, still kind of working in between, like exporting from China and different areas, right? That they're right now a focus to build in the United States supply chain connections. I will say the same that I will say that Charles mentioned. Uh, Being on the racing side of the house, right? It's not that developed yet. The ecosystem to range, like you said, like your typical like tier one, tier two, like venture capitals, which I think that is one of the challenges, right? That at least myself and potentially others, like Charles mentioned, are kind of going through the challenges right now. They're going outside and having the understanding that we in Puerto Rico we don't have that exposure and that networking events that you get, like Charles mentioned in Miami, right? That is a heavy tech weeks and different events that are happening there. I think that is like one of the at least the challenges that we are facing, at least in the connection network side of the house.
What about from the talent side of things? Do you guys, see a difference, right, in terms of being able to acquire talent directly from the island versus going to Miami or San Francisco, right, and finding different type of talent?
I think, I mean, as a startup, your team's still pretty small. So it's not like you need to find an army yet of great people. You need like a really core team of awesome people. So that you can definitely find. I think a mix of people is awesome, bringing in people from mainland as well as in Puerto Rico. You do benefit from more favorable labor rates, which helps build a startup team with lighter capital. And so that's a real benefit, I would say. And people here are really hungry to build things and are eager to, like, there's such an incredible startup community here that it's really fun to meet other founders, people they've worked with before. And so that is honestly a plus. I think there's certain industries where there's a lot more expertise that you can find in certain places. So it depends what you're building and what you're specifically looking for.
Yeah, I think like technical talent is probably the most important problem out of any other city besides like, the Bay, like San Francisco,
Mhm.
right? Like San Francisco doesn't really suffer from technical talent because I think of the networks of, decades of just like venture capital, Silicon Valley, and then you also have like Stanford, UC Berkeley, like all those different schools around there. Whereas, you know, um, even we see this even in Miami, right? Where we're trying to keep up, we're seeing like the venture capital investor, founder, startup side like grow, but technical talent is always trying to keep up, right? So I think that's why it's really important to um, really focus on like the university side of things and bringing out like that network and kind of like that entrepreneurial mindset to kind of grow. But I mean, I met a friend literally recently that's a Puerto Rican, works for Accenture, but is in the Miami area, so it's definitely out there.
definitely.
Yes, and at least for me, at this point, like I don't, I will say that it's more talent than opportunities right now. Like I am 100% what also Megan mentioned, right? That Puerto Rico, I believe that they're hungry for innovation. They're hungry to build, to break the boundaries of what is expected. Our entire team, all of our like 5 engineers, like we are all from Puerto Rico, born and raised, graduated from Puerto Rico, and we have the same skill. I opened when I opened the hiring, I was looking across, also from mainland. So it demonstrated, at least in my side, that for what we are looking right now on the this specific technical engineering side. Where we go have the talent and it will have the talent as well to help us grow. It just I believe was the problem was never the talent. I think the problem was that there was no opportunities to build and innovate in each areas. So it's like new innovations way. Um,
Yeah, and maybe I'll just add on to that. What's been really cool from my experience is after doing my MBA at Stanford, everyone who's Puerto Rican and gone through Stanford has reached out to me and said, "Are you hiring? I want a reason to come back to the island." And so there's, to what Jonathan said, a lot of interest in how do I get back there, but there needs to be good job opportunities. And I know my co-founder Nicole, who is Puerto Rican, that's a big part of what she wants to do as well. Was, hey Meg, when we start this company, let's go to Puerto Rico. And it's been really cool to just see how many people have reached out and been like, I just did Stanford MBA. I'm also Puerto Rican. Can I come help you? I'm going to be there this summer with my family. What can I do? Like, I want to get involved. So I think that's real. And what's unique about that is it's a small pool. And so it starts to get like this connection of really awesome talent that's been spread in a lot of different places that really wants to go back and do good things. And so that's like an exciting benefit for us that if you're building in the Silicon Valley, like you're a tiny little fish in a massive ocean. Whereas when you're building with like a specific purpose and you have that link, a lot more resources come your way and you can really benefit from great talent.
And you're completely right. Let's say like my head of engineering was specifically that case. Like he reached out, he was a Miami base, he wanted to go back to Puerto Rico. He really fit the profile. Right now he's working out of Puerto Rico, came back with his daughter and family back to Puerto Rico, right? So it is amazing to see like all these companies trying to push the boundary of innovation back home.
Very cool, guys. And from the market side of things, right? And maybe Megan, if you want to start from your side, how do you defend, investors downsizing the market, right? That we all know, right? Investors are just say pretty much automatically, right? This is too small of a market, or too small of a this, too small of a that, right? How do you defend that point from the Raya Power perspective?
Yeah, we definitely hear that. And I think people really see it as like, oh, it's over there, it's far away. But for us, at least in our industry, if you look at a competitor like EcoFlow, who's doing batteries, like they sell, I think around, I don't know the exact number, but let's say 20,000 units a year in Puerto Rico. Like that's a massive market. If each unit is $5,000, that's 100 mil. Like that's a lot of money. And so a lot of our battery manufacturers, even Puerto Rico is one of their biggest markets. So it really in our space is not a small market, and there are a ton of people. If you compare it to like going to Hawaii or something, there's 3x, 4x, 6x even. I have the numbers wrong, but there's a lot of people still in Puerto Rico as a proving ground for a product. And I think what is helping us is doing that dual, also building in California still, also building in mainland to show, you're not just in Puerto Rico, but it's an incredible place to start. And that helps you have space to prove it out and then scale elsewhere. So I think it's continuing to keep those ties real because it is a real bias that investors have. Is like, oh, it's small, you're just on that island. And so making sure to communicate that that's not the full dream, that's just kind of the starting point, is important.
Definitely. What about you, Charles? Any experiences with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would always just say like, when you're starting out, it's much better to have like, you know, 10 to 20 customers that really, really love you and, rave about your product and like have thousands that kind of semi like it, right? And when you have like a market like Puerto Rico, the culture is very, very tight knit, right? So as a Puerto Rican, like, you know, anything that happens on the island like happens in like, you know, if something is happening where it's like innovative or people like it will spread like wildfire, right? So it's also a very low risk place to kind of test something out before you kind of jump to a bigger LATAM based you know, market like your Mexico or your South America. um so I don't know, I think it's great.
Jonathan, from your side?
So for us, like we don't. So I am with Charles and also Megan. How we like the market is not only Puerto Rico. Like I don't see Puerto Rico being a market. In reality, at least in our area, uh, part of the national security, like defense, right? This is a national market. Not only that, right? It just it's larger than just Puerto Rico. What make us why I say this, right? Being U.S. made, for us is what we build. It's like instead of building in a different state, right, or Hawaii or Alaska, like we building in Puerto Rico because at the same day, it is one market. Um, so no, yeah, exactly, and like and also allow us to test our sensors period compared to other tropical conditions and different like harsh weather, also power. So for us the market is, I think I see it as a positive way, right? Because we have two doors, right? We have the doors of the mainland United States, but also we have the Caribbean, Latin America. Puerto Rico culturally, we are consumerists of the United States, right? We think and speak a lot of like mainland, right? But back in our culture as well, we are Hispanics, Latin American, so we have a pretty good blend that allow us to tap two markets in one mindset, which I think what make us unique in Puerto Rico is that unique landscape that we have. So I see that is a positive market opportunity for us.
Very cool. Very cool, Jonathan. And sorry, if you guys had, and maybe again, Megan, let's go from your side first. One piece of advice for founders right now, right? That I would say the same way that investors have a misconception about building from Puerto Rico. There's also misconceptions from founders themselves about building from Puerto Rico, right? And the reality of where the ecosystem is right now and where it's going, right? Because that's also sort of important, right? As well, to highlight that the ecosystem is growing, and it's growing for better, not for worse. And there should be, a lot more information, right, for founders to understand the benefits really from of building from the island, and the why, right? It's not just about the incentives and the taxes, right? But in reality, right, why Puerto Rico, right? And Megan, you have a perfect, right, defense for that. Puerto Rico being the, blackouts all the time, power outages all the time, right? It's a perfect defense for that. And I feel that that's, there should be a lot more education around those things. So from your side, right, what could be that one piece of advice you can give a founder that's trying to build right now?
I think really you have to come here and experience it. So probably Nicole told me, we got to go to Puerto Rico, and I was like, why would we go to this small island? So I'm from Canada, grew up there, didn't know much about Puerto Rico, honestly, but I came for the Parallel 18 program. Sorry, my internet might have cut out a bit, but I came for the Parallel 18 program last year, and some of the best parts of building here is, one, you're on an island, so you get to go to the beach when the going gets tough. Like, no doubt it's hard to build a startup, but it's really nice to build it on an island. The community here is incredible. I'm sitting at the Endeavor offices right now. I see people from Parallel 18 all the time, as I think Charles and Jonathan were saying, because it's a smaller place. You have a really tight-knit community that you get to build with and just feel incredibly supported, which I think is hard in other places. And you continue to see the same people and continue to build those relationships. So that has been wonderful as a startup, and everyone wants to help, and there's this, desire for innovation here that is just drives a lot of people to help each other. So it's been a really wonderful environment for us. It's really lovely. And yeah, I think getting into programs here and startup programs that let you test it out is a great place to start. And once foot in front of the other, the ball starts rolling. And now we've been here for a year and a half.
Very cool, very cool. And then Charles, from your side, what's that one piece of advice that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my advice would be, relating to Puerto Rico, like, the thing about the island, because everything is like, starting to develop and it's slightly early, you're almost like an underdog out there, and a lot of the organizations out there just really want to support, Puerto Rican based founders or founders doing stuff from Puerto Rico or supporting Puerto Rico to kind of scale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that support kind of network has been fantastic for us, right? It's really given us like a base and a foundation. So, I would say if like founders are kind of looking to expand, with a good support network that will, bring you up the entire way because they want to see you succeed, like Puerto Rico is the type of network that you want. Um, and you obviously can't beat like, the beaches and just, the good food and the drinks and everything like that.
Definitely, definitely. Jonathan?
Um, I will say that one of the great things that I have like I experienced and I continue to experience is like the culture of innovation, like the ecosystem that is getting built by many organizations, like Megan mentioned, right? Like we all work together. Was Megan since like the pre-18 to P18 with Charles and Megan, P18 like parallel 18 for the trust in Puerto Rico. Also, you have organizations like Invest Puerto Rico that is also like advocating out there to increase like the awareness. And there are many other organizations and accelerators groups in Puerto Rico. They are creating, I would say, an environment uh, that is pushing to thrive, right? Like this is um, one of the main thing is like you have a good talent pool here in Puerto Rico. Like you have like drinks, food, beach, and I think like the spirit to like innovate groups like Santurce Tech, they're out there. So it's a lot of hunger of like continuing to thrive and build, build from within. And it's a lot of like I would say like this sister brotherhood, right? That everyone, how Megan mentioned, like everybody wants to help. Everyone wants to see you thrive. This is one of the things that you have to understand about Puerto Rico, right? It's not only beautiful and and a strategic location, but also it's raising a culture that is pushing innovation as the hardest.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Jonathan. And you guys decided, of course, to build from Puerto Rico, and you guys could have built anywhere else in the world, for that matter, different places, right, with similar ecosystems, similar power outage, right, issues. I mean, the options are sort of endless, right? And there was a reason, right? The culture, I guess, is one of the main things for at least a couple of you guys, and then Megan from your side, your co-founder, right, as well. But you guys, I'm sure that they went through a lot more challenges and struggles, right? The mainland founders, and people are already sort of connected to that big network, right? You guys are doing it. So I really appreciate that, and hats off to you guys for everything you're doing and the hustle, for sure, and for one to choosing Puerto Rico as your place to build, of course. Um, like this again, the same way that you guys are giving advice to right to founders. Do you guys have any piece of advice to investors, right? So what would you say to an LP or to an investor right now that it's basically saying the opposite, right, of what you're thinking? How do you react to that, Megan?
Hmm. I think I'd come back to what Charles said, which is like there's an opportunity here that's untapped, and that doesn't exist in a lot of markets, and especially not in a lot of markets that are in the U.S. If you're looking to invest in a U.S. based company, and I think that's a pretty cool opportunity to be part of. Is something that has so much upside in building something. Is in a space like ours, it's obvious to me why that's there, and so I think it's taking a chance on something that's not really taking a chance, but a huge upside opportunity.
Very cool. And Charles, from your side, what's a piece of advice to investors?
Uh, I think a piece of advice to investors in general is investors should have conviction and should invest in something that they want to see out in the world, right? In terms of innovation. I think there's a lot of like follow through with like all the data or like another AI company or this and that. But I think a lot of them start just kind of like following the current rather than kind of doing what founders mostly do, which is like building new markets or building products out of places that haven't seen as much innovation, right? So you know i would much I would much rather want to be like the first to a market, and invest in an underdog type industry or founder than kind of like invest in another you know same company that I know might do slightly well. Because in the end, like investment, like professional investing is like a numbers game, right? The investors are not there to kind of like go in and just break even. Like if you want a 100x, you're gonna have to like change your investment strategy. So yeah.
Cool. Very, very nice, Charles. Very bold. I like it. Jonathan?
So yes, why investors? Like, what advice do I have to investors? I will say that I think it's an unseen market, right? I think that not a lot of investors understand that the gains and the return of investment made into a company based in Puerto Rico can be twice or three times higher due to like different characteristics, right? From like Megan said, like the amount first, like the amount of talent, the manufacturing, that advanced manufacturing culture, right? The tax incentives, right? I believe that this is a there's not that many investors and even larger customers like Department of Defense, Defense Innovation Units, like this, like softwares, right? That they're not looking into how they can increase the return of investment as the products we are able to scale faster as we have a manufacturing culture established, but also right that we have lower costs. So allow us to scale manufacturing on the supply chain, and per se the return of investments are going to be higher. There is it's not been a lot of focus on what we can produce and what can be produced out of Puerto Rico. My advice is that take a flight, come home, and see what Puerto Rico have to offer. See what companies like Megan, Charles are building, like what we're building out in Puerto Rico, and like it's proof that it is a scalable and it's an untapped market that has been overseen for many years before it's too late because this market, Puerto Rico, is going to continue to grow. We're gonna have more founders, and you're gonna see a lot more company like ours getting out there, building and innovating in the upcoming months and years.
Love it, Jonathan. Thank you so much. All right. So, I guess, last thing, maybe if you guys, each of you want to recap again your one liner, what you do, right? If you guys are racing, tell about that. And then most importantly, where to connect with you, right? So, again, this is for, Angeles investors, right? So any investors and or founders, right, that are watching this right now, how do they get in contact with you? So Megan, if you want to get started.
Perfect. So I guess I'll start to back. To contact me, Megan at rayapower.com. The reminder of what we're building, here's a mini version. It's our solar and storage pod. Place in your backyard, connect to your core appliances, no permits, no construction, no electricians required. Just connect it yourself and get resilience instantly. We are raising a seed round right now, so if you're interested in talking about the round, please reach out. And check out our Instagram, also Raya Power Official. We went viral last weekend.
Very cool. Thank you, Megan. Charles?
Yeah, so Charles Master Rodriguez again. You can find me at Charles at supplyveins.com, or you can just look that up on LinkedIn as well. Supply Veins, we're a technology that plugs directly into your email, can track, automate, execute all your purchase orders, track your entire supply chain for you. Work mainly with the automotive and defense sector. Yeah, looking forward to contacting you. And we're also raising a pre-seed round, so.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate it. Jonathan?
Hey again, Jonathan Soto Nieves. You can find me, like my email is jsotonieves at iterasolutions.com. But also you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm monitoring LinkedIn often. What we do, we are building Phantom Pulse, which is a sensor that is silent, that detects and classifies drones at the edge, meaning that we don't need no cloud, we don't have any emissions, and we are built in order for like those environments that are congested and contested environments. We protect events, facilities, critical infrastructure, so oil, gas, electricity generation facilities, as well the borders and airports, and throughout the Department of Defense to protect bases and Marines and soldiers around the world. We are raising a pre-seed round right now and closing our round in July 31st. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. Well, to everyone that's watching this, again, this is, I think, these three founders here are proof, right, that the Puerto Rico market works, right? It's about how to smartly navigate through it. And they're all different industries. They've all made different decisions and they've moved to all different places. But all, at the end of the day, right, they all started from the same place. And that's Puerto Rico, right? And there's many reasons why, and many other reasons that we may have not even talked about in this webinar, right? Like Act 60 and all the other incentives that we actually spoke about in our first episode with Alan there from Invest Puerto Rico. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for taking the time to do this webinar for us, and keep grinding. And connect with the community of Angeles as well. We're an amazing group of investors, professionals in the industry, all Latinos, of course. And we'll see you guys around. Thank you so much.
Thank you.